The Lawbringer. His armor is some of the best in For Honor. His weapon is one of the most versatile and impressive. Just who is this monster? And what's he based on? Who were the Lawbringers in actual history? Welcome to the very first installment in a new series of For Honor videos I call Heroes in History, where we take the heroes in For Honor and look at their historic counterparts. Today, I want to analyze the Lawbringer and who they actually were. So, who were they? Well, on initial inspection, we might think their closest counterpart was a space marine.
I scum! No prisoners for the Emperor! Ah!
And while I'd be the first to agree with that, I think we should be a bit more cautious in our assessment.
Your duty is not done, brother!
Let's first look at the trailer. If we look at the trailer for the Lawbringer, we hear them say the following.
Where order has broken down, where cruelty and lawlessness rule, Lawbringers are justice. They go wherever they are needed, and they come prepared.
Now again, this gives some credibility to the Space Marine theory.
Ah! We have destroyed that which offended the Emperor. Victory for the righteous!
But let's think about this a moment. Knights were sworn to protect the innocent, of course, but they weren't necessarily a judge, jury, and executioner. But there was a military order that was. The Papal Guard, also known as the Swiss Guard. These were a small military order formed by Pope Julius II in 1506 and are actually still active today. They were chosen from unmarried soldiers who had spent time in the Swiss military and acted as the strong arm of the Catholic Church for a long time. The classic weapon of the Swiss Guard is the halberd, which they still carry to this day for ceremonial purposes, and it's a weapon that is closely related to the poleaxe the Lawbringer carries. Now, to understand the Lawbringer and the Swiss Guard and how they're so interconnected, it's time to dive into the Swiss Guard's history. And, well, maybe a few Space Marine clips along the way.
The enemy wishes to fight, brothers! Let us indulge them!
Now, it's hard to be in the Vatican, especially way back in the day. You want to enforce the rule of God, but how can you when God also preaches peace? Well, Pope Sixtus found a way by hiring Swiss mercenaries to deal with any pesky insurrections or holy wars that found their way to the Holy See. See, and this practice of hiring the Swiss warriors was continued after Sixtus by Innocent VIII and Alexander VI, all of these popes who had their own holy battles to win and knew that the Swiss were a capable and competent warrior force. Now, after the Italian Wars, Pope Julius II commissioned a corps of 200 Swiss soldiers at all times to be used for Catholic protection and use. And on January 22, 1506, the first 150 Swiss Guard soldiers entered the Holy City and swore allegiance to the Pope and the Vatican. It was said of them by Huldrych Zwingli, a Swiss Catholic who later became a Protestant, but we'll ignore that for now. He said of them, "The Swiss see the sad situation of the Church of God, mother of Christianity, and realize how grave and dangerous it is that any tyrant, avid for wealth, can assault with impunity the common mother of Christianity." Later, Pope Julius II later granted them the title of the Blood Ravens.
Die!
No, kidding. Defenders of the Church's freedom. But their true test would come in 1527, a battle that would bring the Swiss Guard to the point of legend. At that time, the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V was becoming far more powerful than Pope Clement was able to bear. He feared Charles would try to overthrow the papacy and join forces, and so to counter this, he joined forces with Charles's enemy, the King of France, to try and stop this growth in power. But he failed, and the Holy Roman Empire proved too strong for France. But after the war was over, Charles had no way of paying his mercenary soldiers, the Landsknecht. Remember them? The inspiration for the warmonger? Hint, hint. The soldiers mutinied and forced their commanders to lead them to Rome, where they could sack Rome, kill the Pope, and take what they wanted from the Vatican treasury. 14,000 Germans, 6,000 Spanish, and an uncertain number of Italian soldiers marched on Rome, and, if legend is to believe, maybe a few Chaos Marines.
Traitor legions!
The Vatican could only produce about 5,000 militiamen and 189 members of the Swiss Guard. The attack was merciless and bloody. The forces of the Holy Roman Empire captured the walls of the Vatican the same day they attacked. The Swiss Guard fought bitterly and with all their might, being forced all the way back to the Bastilla, and all but 42 were slaughtered. The 42 that survived escorted the Pope away from the Vatican and held off the pursuing mercenaries themselves to buy time so that the Pope may escape. This final stand of the Swiss Guard became known as the Last Stand of the Swiss Guard, which has been immortalized by Sabaton in their hit song, The Last Stand.
In the heart of the Holy See, in the home of Christianity, the seat of power is in danger. There's a foe of 1,000 swords, they've been abandoned by the Lord. The fall from grace will pave their path to damnation. They're the 189 in the service of heaven, they're protecting the holy line. It was 1527, give their lives on the steps to heaven. Thy will be done. For the grace, for the might of our Lord, for the home of the holy, for the faith, for the way of the sword, give their lives so boldly. For the grace, for the might of our Lord, in the name of His glory, for the faith, for the way of the sword, come and tell the story again. On the guard of 42, along the secret avenue, the Stel Sant'Angelo is waiting. They're the guards of the Holy See, they're the gods of Christianity. The path through history is paved with salvation. Dying for salvation, with dedication, no capitulation, annihilation, echo commendation, reincarnation, heaven is your destination. Dying for salvation, with dedication, no capitulation, annihilation, echo commendation, reincarnation, heaven is your destination. In the name of God. For the grace, for the might of our Lord, for the home of the holy, for the faith, for the way of the sword, give their lives so boldly. For the grace, for the might of our Lord, in the name of His glory, for the faith, for the way of the sword, come and tell the story. Give their lives so boldly, come and tell the Swiss Guard story again.
After the Italian Wars ended, the Swiss Guard became more of a ceremonial role. However, their oaths were absolute. In fact, there's a legend that in World War II, when Hitler's Panzer Division rolled into Rome, the Swiss Guards took up defensive lines carrying only their halberds in defense. This is probably exaggerated, but it was true that the Papal Guard did take up arms when they learned the Nazis were coming. But luckily, no lives were lost, as Hitler changed his mind and chose not to attack the Vatican. Was it because there was no tactical advantage to it, or because he saw those Papal Guards and knew he stood no chance? Hey, I'd be terrified of a small legion of Space Marines too.
Come, show me what passes for fury among your misbegotten kind!
But in all seriousness, the Papal Guard didn't have any real military purpose after this, and they were mostly a ceremonial group. But this would not change until 1981, when there was an assassination attempt on the Pope. After this, the Swiss Guard forces were required to undergo basic hand-to-hand and small arms training, and were only selected from the Swiss military or those who had been through basic Swiss military training and had very high commendations. So what does this all have to do with the Lawbringer, other than, the Space Marine stuff? To the Christian world, the Vatican represented the Holy Law, the voice of God, and the Swiss Guard in some cases would act as the hand of the Pope, an extension of his will and order. Some popes might go so far as to send their guard to deal with insurrections, heresies, and any breaches in law that affronted the Pope or the Catholic Church. The Lawbringer trailer says,
Pray that you do not need them. And when they arrive, pray that you have done no wrong.
This is likely in accordance with the idea that when the Swiss Guard is there, pray that you are not the one they're there to punish or stand against. Consider for a moment, if you will, what the Catholic Church was at that time. It wasn't just a seat of the Church of worship. It had a part to play in politics, exploration, and in trade. Many kingdoms still looked to the Pope and the Church for guidance in matters of law and political decisions. Thus, as the Papal Guard was the arm of the Pope and the Catholic Church, then they were also the ambassadors of the law of His Holiness. Thus, Lawbringers. Now, the Swiss Guard today wear very little in terms of armor, but they were shown to have had very similar steel armor in part, which is like the Lawbringers back in the day during the Italian Wars. And I'm sure there were a Swiss Guard, and I'm sure that when Swiss Guard took the field with his brothers in arms, they may very well have shouted out the great cry of
Ad mortem inimicus!
Either that or
Die!
to each his own, I guess. I could see it in both. But thank y'all for watching, and let me know which hero in history you'd like me to discuss next time. I'm kind of torn between talking about the Warden and talking about the Peacekeeper. In any case, leave a like and a comment below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys later. Take care.